Good morning. Those of you who are joining us, we're just waiting a couple of minutes to get started on the webinar whilst we allow more people to arrive. So we'll probably be making a start in about 2 minutes. Just giving it another minute to let a few more people arrive. Okay, we'll make a start. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this Wednesday morning to learn more about Station Innovation Zone Year 4. I'll spare you my usual terrible railway puns that my colleagues are usually subjected to and just simply say that I hope you've got a coffee in your hand and you're looking forward to hearing about the exciting opportunities that Year 4 of Station Innovation Zone has got to offer. I'm really lucky today to be joined by some brilliant colleagues here at both Connected Places Catapult who help us coordinate Station Innovation Zone from the business side, as well as two great colleagues from Network Rail who help us to ensure the programme runs safely at Bristol Temple Meads Station, a station which I'm sure the majority of people will be aware has a lot of railway heritage, and we're extremely lucky to have it as our testbed site on this programme. So I'm just going to give a quick overview of how the morning will run. So if I could have the next slide, thank you so much. So we're going to start with a welcome from our rail director here at Connected Places Catapult, Alan Peters. I'll then talk a little bit about the programme and the actual context of the programme, why we run it and what it aims to do, as well as then going through what it's going to look like this year in Year 4. And then we're going to be joined by Arna Spar, who's one of our senior consultants here who specialises in rail and has helped to develop the challenges for this year's programme. And then we'll get a bit of a spiel from Network Rail about the importance of the programme to them and what we can and can't do at Bristol Temple Meads. And then there's going to be a section from my colleague George on how we develop a successful testbed and how you can effectively run a trial in a live railway environment. And then we are going to do a Q&A. Next slide, please. And yeah, over to you, Alan.
Lovely. Thank you, Anna, and good morning, everybody. So welcome to the fourth year of Station Innovation Zone. So I'm Alan Peters, the Rail Director here at Connected Places Catapult, and I'm delighted to kick off today's webinar. Before we dive into the programme itself, I wanted just to take a moment to introduce Connected Places Catapult. So we are the UK's innovation accelerator for cities, transport and place leadership, and our mission is to connect businesses, public sector leaders with cutting-edge research, helping them turn those great ideas into real-world solutions. And our focus is really on accelerating innovation, make sure it delivers lasting impact. Now, back in 2025, March 2025, at our Connected Places Summit, we launched a refreshed strategy that sets our direction for the years ahead. And it's built around tackling those big challenges that we all face, that we all know about, we all see in the press, achieving net zero, improving digital connectivity, and making sure you're really creating that infrastructure that's inclusive and future ready for everyone. And we do this by building those effective ecosystems, bringing together innovators and investors and policymakers to make sure we're unlocking the right new markets and then scaling solutions faster than ever. And I think Station Innovation Zone is a perfect example of that mission in action. So this is a program that I've been incredibly proud to be part of for the last few years. It's a really positive, collaborative effort to transform how we innovate in the rail sector. turning a live station, in this case Bristol Temple Meads, into a real-world testbed for new ideas. And now in its fourth year, CIS, as we call it, is funded by Innovate UK and delivered in partnership with Network Rail's Wales and Western region. And it's all designed to do something a bit special, a bit different, making sure you're lowering the barriers to innovation, especially for SMEs, which I know all joined us on the call today, but also accelerating that journey from concept to deployment that I mentioned earlier. Each year, we run a two-phase competition. So in phase one, we fund a number of SMEs to collaboratively develop the trial plans, knock the rough edges off, as I usually say, make sure we're achieving that right level of balance between feasibility and ambition. And then in a second part, we select a subset of those organizations to trial those solutions in a live station environment with support from the Catapult team and Network Rail. And I'd just like to say thank you to the team at Network Rail, because this program is only possible due to their commitment, their energy, and indeed all their contacts of the team at Network Rail, Wales and Western. This year, we're focusing on two challenge spaces, carefully chosen after correspondence with industry and discussions around what actually achieves a difference to the station. First one of those is station weather resilience, helping predict, prevent, and respond to wet floors and weather-related risks. And the second is improving the interchange experience, tackling issues like passengers rushing, the anxiety associated with that, trying to make the station experience smoother and more human-centered. But we've got much more detail as we go through the webinar on those two themes. I guess what I'm most looking forward to this year is seeing how these themes inspire new partnerships, new technologies, and new ways of thinking. And we've seen this in previous cohorts when SMEs, even if they haven't got through to the second phase, have formed collaborations and consortiums as a result of the contacts they've made on this program. And that for us is also part of the success. We've actually seen some incredible ideas come through the program, from things like AI-powered platform monitoring solutions to carbon capture solutions that have all been tested live at Bristol Temple Meads. So I'm interested to see what we get this year and what this next cohort brings. I'm also excited about how the program itself is naturally evolving. We're starting to build those stronger links with Great British Railways, and we're aligning with the new Procurement Act, which gives us new opportunities as well in terms of commercializing the technology. And we're expanding our ecosystem continuously for station operators, suppliers, and innovators. So if you're here to just apply, to partner, or simply to learn more, I hope this morning / into this afternoon gives you a clear picture of what the Station Innovation Zone is all about and how you can get involved. So thank you for joining us for this webinar. I'd like now to introduce a short video about Connected Places Catapult to tell you just a little bit more about us. Next slide, please.
For millennia, cities have been places where bright ideas spark. From the earliest riverside trading posts that turned into today's sprawling megacities in the digital global economy. Cities can create positive experiences for people, always connected by technology. And when connected places work well, it's good for people and the planet. But making a connected place succeed is hard. There's loads of stakeholders, businesses, regulators, and community groups who want to be involved across every mode of transport, every type of building, the infrastructure that underpins them, and the data and digital platforms that connect them. All of this is needed to help people, communities, neighbourhoods, and local businesses to prosper. Now, more than ever, we need our connected places to succeed. We are in a climate emergency. Rapid urbanisation means 3/4 of us will be living in a city by 2050. And new technologies are revolutionising the way that we live, the way we work, and the way we travel, creating fantastic opportunities for innovation, jobs, and growth. At Connected Places Catapult, We connect people, places, and businesses for a future of sustainable growth and prosperity. We are the UK's innovation accelerator for cities, transport, and place leadership. We are trusted across government, industry, and academia, connecting new technologies, business models, and investment opportunities. So join with us and be better connected for a future of sustainable growth and prosperity.
Morning again, everyone. Thanks for that introduction, Alan, and I hope you all enjoyed the video and it provided a bit more context about who we are and what we do here at Connected Places Catapult. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we delve into the nitty-gritty details of the programme. So there is a Q&A function on Zoom that we would encourage people to use when asking questions. And all the links that you see, any mentioned documentation will be distributed to you in a post-webinar follow-up email, probably early next week. And any other queries that we can't answer as part of our Q&A, we will answer them in writing. And if you want to have them answered in writing, I will be providing the email address to which you should address those queries to. We're keen to make sure we provide the most accurate information we can in these sorts of webinars, but sometimes that's not always possible live. So, okay, let's get into the fun stuff. So next slide, please. So I'm just going to introduce a little bit about Station Innovation Zone and touching on what Alan said, really, that the focus of Station Innovation Zone really is passengers. So next slide, actually, sorry, because I actually do have slides prepared. So I'm not just going to go off the cuff. So a lot of the innovation, even in rail, focuses very heavily on track and infrastructure upgrades on the lines themselves, which is why this programme is quite unique. So what we aim to do is, complement Network Rail's Control Period 7 goals: safety, service delivery, efficiency, customer satisfaction, sustainable growth, and people. Yes, I did have those written down. They were not off the top of my head. And this program aims to do that by helping innovators to tackle challenges and break down traditionally very challenging regulatory barriers so that they can access this funding, trial in a live environment, and gather that valuable feedback and data that helps develop their solution further, in the hopes that one day it can then make it all the way up the technological readiness levels, all the way through to commercialization and procurement. It's very beneficial in Station Innovation Zone to be able to network with the people that work in the stations, not just at Network Rail, but from the train operating companies as well. We're very heavily supported by Great Western Rail, and their insights onto how passengers react with our innovations are so helpful in breaking down some of those barriers. So the focus is passenger experience. We're very proud to have supported a very diverse array of innovators over the last 3 years that we've been running the programme, and we're very excited to see what comes in year 4. So next slide, please. Bit more about the vision is that, as I say, we've worked very closely with partners in Bristol to develop this vision of what we see to be the station of the future, which will be a proud, efficient gateway to the place that it serves. The station of the future reflects local identity and is open and inclusive to all. It convenes people, businesses, and culture without compromising on purpose, effective transit through its spaces. Our vision is to design a safe, sociable, seamless, and sustainable station that enables both social and financial prosperity. And I've got a little bit of information on the next slide. So as I say, safe station, social station, seamless station, sustainable station, these are the 4 S's, if you will, that we are keen for innovators to consider when they do apply themselves to this programme. So if you are looking at a solution that's focused on safety, this is the sort of question we'd want you to look at, which is how might we enhance safety at the station through improved station operations, and so on and so forth. And these slides will be distributed to you after the webinar, but we really do encourage people when they are writing their proposals and their applications to really think about some of these questions of how we can improve passenger experience at Bristol Temple Mead Station, as well as how we can have an impact on the wider rail network. So next slide, please. Oh, look, me again. Fantastic. Next slide, please, Viv. So as mentioned by Alan at the start, and as will be elaborated on by Anna Spar later through this presentation, our challenges this year are looking at station weather resilience, specifically surface condensation buildup and how we can actively or passively prevent slips from happening in the station, as well as looking at that interchange anxiety that passengers can experience. So the way the program runs is in phase 1, you would work with Connected Places Catapult and Network Rail to develop your trial plan and receive up to £4,000 for 8 businesses to develop this trial plan. So that'll be looking at how you can integrate with existing systems, what you need to install in the station, and so on and so forth, all of those logistical elements that come with operating in a live environment to make sure that when you are, or if you are selected for phase 2, that you know exactly what you're doing and where you're going to go, and we've got the right contacts in place to make that happen. In phase 2, that's when you would get up to £45,000 to trial your solution live at Bristol Temple Meads Station. And then throughout part of the programme, there's funding and business support available. So that's from funding up for us from here at Catapult, obviously, and then working closely with experts from Network Rail on that testbed support as well. People who know the station inside out, who are working there day in, day out to make sure that passengers travel through safely and effectively and are supported by the innovations that you're wanting to trial. Next slide, please. So this is just an overview of the dates and where we're at so far. So I've helpfully circled the application support webinar, which is today. So we launched on the 16th of July. We will be doing a couple of drop-in sessions where we bring in our colleagues from Network Rail, as well as some challenge designers from Connected Places Catapult to answer more specific questions you might have throughout your application period. We're aware it's quite a long open call period, and we do catch people in the summer holidays as well. So we just want to make sure that we have 2 different sessions that aim to catch as many people as possible that might have specific questions. And then our applications will be closing on the 24th of September. That'll be at 5:30 or 5 o'clock. Do forgive me, it's within that 30-minute interval when we are going to be quite strict on that. So if you do have queries about your application, please do get them to us at least a week before the application closing date so that we can help you and support you as effectively as possible. And then in the assessment period, we'll be through from September to early October. So that's when technical assessors from Connected Places Catapult and Network Rail will look through your application and vet it against a specific scoring criteria that I'll detail a little bit later in this presentation. And we'll be aiming to do interviews in mid-October. So we'll be sharing those dates with you in our post-webinar email so that you can be as prepared as possible to have them marked in your diary for someone from your team to be available if you are successful in getting an interview. And then we will be selecting our phase 1 applicants in late October with the view of starting actual phase 1 trial development in early November. Next slide, please. So the drop-in sessions that I've just mentioned, there's a QR code on the screen now. I'll leave that up for a few seconds if any of you very quickly got your phone to hand to scan it. But as I said at the start in housekeeping, we will make sure that all the links that we mention, all the documents that we mention are all distributed to you so that you are as prepared as possible to progress your application. Next slide, please. So as I said, a little bit more about the programme structure and the funding associated it. So there will be up to 8 that receive that £4,000. And then that selection process will be 3 of them will move to phase 2. And from phase 2, you'll conduct your trial over a 6-month period at Bristol Temple Meads Station. And all of the additional support you receive will be that business development and that technical trial support and the opportunities to showcase technology at industry events if they do become available. Next slide, please. So the eligibility, so you must be a UK registered business with a company's house number so that we can do all of our various due diligence checks. You must be a micro, small or medium-sized enterprise. Apologies for the spelling of enterprise there. So that's as the definitions on the Gov.uk website, which we'll share. Your solution must be at least technological readiness 5 to 7. So sorry, it must be between those. So it must be ready to be trialed in a live environment. And there must be direct benefits and impact that will come to your solution as a result of trialing it in Bristol Temple Meads. And you must address one of the identified challenge areas. Other key requirements that will ensure your success on the programme will be that you be willing to travel face-to-face for meetings in Bristol so you can get to know the station, get to know the staff, understand how it's going to work. So we do recommend in your finance element of your application to budget some money for that travelling even. And that will help you be able to manage the trial with agreed support levels from us here at Catapult and at Network Rail. So for any queries, inquiries relating to your eligibility to partake, do drop an email to that email address there. As I say, it will be available to you and I will make sure I pop it in the chat as well. And it's worth mentioning that we can't ourselves declare an application either in or out of scope on your behalf before you submit. This must be determined on the basis of your alignment with the competition challenges and the additional out-of-scope information provided in our application guidance document, which we will also cover in this webinar. Next, please. So just a little bit more about that funding and how it is distributed. So in phase one, you would receive 50%, so that would be £2,000 upfront, and then 50% upon completion and submission of your trial proposal. It's worth noting that phase one is grant funded. So those of you, and I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with minimum financial assistance, previously called de minimis, rules, which dictate that you must not have received more than £315,000 in public funding within the last 2 to 3 financial years. So you will be required to fill out a declaration form that lists the previous funding that you've received that is subject to the MFA. The eligible expenses are labour and staff time, consultancy costs, equipment and materials costs, so that would be stuff to do with your install, laboratory testing costs, and travel and assistance costs. It's not super important in phase one really to look too much into equipment and materials, because it will just be the development of your trial plan. That would be something you detail as part of your finance application on the form itself in phase two. It's worth us mentioning that in phase one, we would expect the majority of your time to be allocated to labour and staff time or towards travel and subsistence costs. That's not me dictating how you do it. It's the development of a trial plan. So it's going to involve some heavy lifting from a admin perspective of writing up your trial plan and then traveling to Bristol, getting to know the station, working with us. So those are the two areas we would expect to see the highest amount of funding allocated, specifically labour and staff time. Phase two, we take a pre-commercial funding approach. So there would be up to £45,000 available to conduct that full 6-month trial at Bristol Temple Meads Station. So typically what we do is you'd have a contract in place, and there'd be specific milestones that are associated with the release of various elements of funding. So we might do 40% up front, 40% at a determined point in your contracted trial plan, and then the final 20% upon completion and submission of your final report. So it's pre-commercial funding, this meaning it will be done using invoices and it will not be subject to any minimum financial assistance rules. And it'll be my good self guiding you through all of this financial stuff. So if you've got questions about that, I'll be here to support. And it's also worth noting that for that 6-month trial, the eligibility period of costs, it can only be fees that are incurred between the project start and the end dates. So that would be for phase two. Next slide, please. So things that we do very much recommend that you do before you submit an application is to read our application guidance document, which is published on our main opportunity page for Station Innovation Zone. Everyone on this call has been heavily involved in putting that guidance together so that it's as helpful as possible. You can click through the various different chapters to understand bits that we might not have expanded on as heavily in this actual webinar, but there'll be more written information about. And that can be from challenges, it's from all of the various other phases and the funding, and just a bit more information about Bristol Temple Meads Station as well. So we do recommend you read through that. A link will be made available to you, and it is available on our main opportunity page, which will be probably of where you found this application support webinar link. So it's likely a link you've got already. So after you've read through that and read through the challenges in some detail, you then submit your application through the online portal. So only information in your application form will be assessed. No additional documentation should be attached unless requested. And that bit that is requested will be the finance document that we provide. And we do provide a standard template for that. And within that finance document, you don't only detail the information associated with your phase two trial. So that's where the majority of that detail is. The portal is accessed again via our main opportunity page. And the deadline is 5:30 on Wednesday, the 24th of September. Late submissions will not be considered. Applicants who require any assistance, please do contact innovation_funding@connectedplacescatapult.org.uk at least 10 days or a week before the competition closes to allow for appropriate support to be provided to you by us. Next slide, please. So the scoring criteria that we take for this competition is split into 4 areas. So the first one is a challenge, which is we will determine how effectively we feel your innovation addresses one of the key challenges of the competition that my colleague's going to detail a little bit later. And then we will look at your solution and your trial proposal. So the practical elements of your solution, what it proposes, and how you will then trial that at Bristol Temple Meads Station. We'll then be looking into the impact, which we will look at the broader benefits and value that your innovation will deliver, both within the context of Bristol Temple Mead Station, but also within the wider rail industry, exploring that economic and sustainability impacts and, yeah, the impact that it will generally have if it were to be scaled. And the final metric will be the project delivery and team. So this will have a little look at your delivery team's capabilities, skills, and financial planning for your trial. Next slide, please. So the assessment process that we take is that initial screening and due diligence checks. So that will be where we look on Companies House to make sure you are in fact who you say you are. You are a registered company. There's not any red marks on your file that would make us feel that you might not be able to deliver. And then we'll check that you align with the competition scope in this initial phase as well. After that, there'll be a technical review, which is where we have assessors from Connected Places Catapult with specific expertise in the challenge areas who will evaluate applications against the scoring criteria and challenges. It will then move to the interview stage, and as I say, that those interviews will be contacted, interviewees even will be contacted in early October 2025 for an interview with Connected Places Catapult and Network Rail. And after that, we will make that phase 1 selection at the end of October. So the decision will be communicated to all of those who were interviewed by the end of October 2025, with phase 1 commencing officially in November. Next slide, please. And now I'm happy to hand over to my colleague Anna Spar, who's going to talk to you about the challenges we've developed this year for Bristol Temple Mead Station.
Good morning. I'm Anna Spar, as Anna already told you. Next slide, please. So we have 2 challenges this year. This might be a slight difference if compared to the previous years, if you've been keeping an eye on us. So the first one is the station weather resilience, which is a challenge that we've split up into sub-challenges. Overall, we're looking at for innovations to reduce surface condensation at stations, preventing slips, trips, and falls. We are looking for both active prevention and passive prevention, where active prevention looks at developing solutions that prevent condensation in the first place, and the passive prevention, where we hope to find solutions that help reduce the risk of slipping, tripping, and falling. So the goal for the active prevention is to reduce and avoid condensation and slip risk in high footfall areas. What we would like you to do is to aim to show reduced condensation events, so fewer slip incidents and positive user feedback. We highlight here that it's an aim to show. This is a trial and you're here to learn. So if your trial shows at the end that your solution does not show reduced condensation events, this is not an unsuccessful trial. It's about the learnings that you develop throughout that period. Achievability, so using available materials, ensure that the station operation, that it's compatible with station operations and that it can operate in a heritage listed building. Passive prevention is about focusing on the innovative floor safety solutions that reduce slip risks, especially in those listed buildings. So the goal is to meet or exceed the pendulum test value, which is a slip resistance test that Network Rail uses to assess the slippiness of their services. We hope for you to aim to demonstrate fewer slips incidents and achieve PTF standards, so pendulum test value standards, across treated surfaces. We want you to find a similar achievability, similar to the one in the active prevention challenge, around the suitability of materials and ensuring operational compatibility and gaining heritage approval. It's worthwhile mentioning here is to consider inclusive accessibility. Different materials will have different impacts on station users. So we recommend you read the Network Rail floor guidance document, which can be found online. Also consider in the way you set up the trial that it impacts with the rest of the station. So it could be that sudden differing levels of grippiness of platforms can actually cause more slips, trips, and falls because they are unexpected. So it's really important to consider how you might integrate with the rest of the station during your trial. We also encourage you in the first period to really get an understanding of where and when at the station the most problematic spaces are when it comes to slip resistance and surface condensation. Next slide, please. So the second challenge that we have is all around improving the interchange experience. It's informed by the research that we did last year with an external company called MIMA. The report can be found on the CPC website, and the link will be shared with you after this presentation as well, and looked into how people experience an interchange at Bristol Temple Meads specifically. We found that an area for innovation is to reduce the interchange anxiety, which people experience often when their interchange doesn't go as expected. This could be caused by delays or changing platforms, and results in rushing to these different platforms instead of keeping a calm, relaxed mindset. So the key objectives are reduce stress, so help people to feel more relaxed, prepared, and in control when changing trains. Minimize conflict, so reduce congestions and conflict between rushing passengers and those moving more slowly or dwelling on platforms. The solution scope, we look at both physical and digital solutions, where in the physical solutions, we're particularly interested in those solutions that explore novel uses of light, sound, sensor, and other visuals, other sensorial stimuli within the station environment. In terms of digital solutions, we are keen to find out about solutions that consider augmented reality or other digital approaches that influence passenger behavior. Here, it's important to highlight that we're not looking for signage solutions or wayfinding apps, which I'll come back to in the next slide. So measurable outcomes, again, aiming to demonstrate a reduction in passenger anxiety and positive impact on their overall station experience. So what we're keen to read about is how you intend to measure passenger experience and how you intend to collect that data. Aim to show reduction in rushing for services among interchanging passengers. Again, we are interested in hearing how you aim to monitor and measure this metric. And of course, to prove a decrease again in trip, fill, slips and falls and near misses caused by rushing. So again, highlighting that this is a trial and that you're here to learn. We don't expect solutions to be market ready at the end of this trial. I'm sure my colleague George will talk about that in more detail later, but we're looking to learn from these trials at the station. Next slide, please. So out of scope, we've been running this program for 3 years already and have learned a fair bit along the way. So there's quite a list of out of scope solutions, which have either been already trialed at the station in previous series of the trials, or as we were preparing or running trials, found that they are not suitable for testing at Bristol Temple Meads. So out of scope are existing rail station innovations, so solutions already tested or seen at UK rail stations. These are not just the solutions that we trialed, but across the whole UK rail network. Non-aligned innovations, so solutions that do not support Network Rail's strategic priorities. Also, solutions that do not support the strategic priorities of the programme are not considered in scope. Bristol Temple Meads specific exclusions are innovations of typologies already tested or used at Bristol Temple Meads, which include LiDAR crowd monitoring solutions, and I won't go through the whole list, but to highlight in this list are wayfinding apps for indoor spaces. this includes digital maps. And the reason we exclude this is because Network Rail have a 5-year contract with a company called Whoosh, who provide a platform for Network Rail, providing real-time platform information. And Network Rail has a contract with Good Maps, who provide the indoor signage and wayfinding for all their mainline stations. So those two delivery contractors for Network Rail mean that we don't need to go into the space, but there could be potential collaboration. So your solution may be able to enhance some of their work, but this is a fine balance. So make sure there is a very clear, unique selling point to your solution, in addition to any anything related to these two companies. And that's it for me. Next slide, please.
Morning all. My name's Brian Waltman. I'm the program sponsor for Innovation Zone at Bristol Temple Meads for Network Rail. So I'll just give you a bit of an overview on the station and who Network Rail are and how we work with the wider railway industry partners on this program. So go to the next slide, please. There's quite a lot of detail captured in these slides. I don't intend to go through everything line by line, but Network Rail are effectively the infrastructure owner and operator of the railway systems. So we don't actually drive the trains, whether they be passenger trains or freight trains, but we supply all of the tracks and the signalling systems and stations, and we're responsible for their operation and maintenance. It's a large organization. I think we currently have between 45 and 50,000 full-time employees. That doesn't take into account any of the kind of contracting staff we have working with us. So we're large, we're complex, which is exactly why we're so keen to continue working with Connected Places Catapult. As Alan said at the beginning of this webinar, it's a very collaborative program. It's really built on being quite pragmatic, recognizing where Network Rail and wider rail industry is a very difficult industry and environment to innovate in. And if you're a small company in a very large procurement chain of tier 1 and tier 2 suppliers, we recognize that it could be a very difficult space to get access to. So that's what we're trying to address at the Innovation Zone. We've settled on Bristol. We've chosen Bristol as a location for a couple of reasons. It's already a very difficult environment. It's a very old building. It's one of the very first buildings of the National Railway Network. So it dates back to 1840. It's a Grade 1 listed building. If you're not familiar with listed building consents, just to cut through, it's going to be very unlikely that would support any innovation that requires listed building consent. It's going to be very onerous to try and do, and the protections that we need to be putting in place will probably outweigh the kind of resource that will be available to either yourself or us to support. So there will be constraints about what we can do in the physical space of the station. That said, with it being a Grade 1 listed building, it's a real good environment to look at how we can try and mitigate some of those constraints through innovation, and what good ideas you have that we won't necessarily have already seen in our current supply chain and procurement channels that we have. When you come to Bristol Temple Meads, and I'd strongly recommend that you do, to get a flavour of what the station's about and the local surrounding area, you will see it is bang smack in the middle of lots and lots of construction, both outside of the station and inside of the station. Inside, we're completing a full renewal of the roof. We're completely rewiring the station. We've got a number of redundant parts at the station that haven't been used for years and years, being turned into new retail and office space. Directly outside the station, it's in the middle of one of the biggest regeneration projects in Britain at the moment, which is the Bristol Temple Quarter, Phase 1. That will see new entrances built at the station to support the surrounding new University of Bristol building and campus that's being built, and a new hotel and conference centre complex, as well as significant growth of residential units being built. So over the next sort of 3, 4, 5 years, the station is going to completely change in terms of its geographical context. So surrounding the station is going to be what is currently a lot of car park and industrial brown land, is going to be heavily utilized within the next 3, 4 years. That obviously will bring about challenge about how the station is currently set up and how it's going to respond to the future challenges of what people need from the station going forward, which is why this program is perfect. We are also working with local funders around increasing train services, both through Bristol and to the local areas. So some of you might be aware of something called Metro West, which is opening up new train lines to Portishead and to Henbury and North Filton. That will mean that we have more people coming to the station in more regular timings as well. So the actual demand on the station from a train service perspective is going to change quite rapidly in the coming years. All of this means that the station and how it operates is fairly fluid. So myself and Andy Rhodes is on the call here, who works with me within Network Rail, and all of the Connected Places Catapult team that you see on this call. We're very keen. We know where the boundaries are. We're a regulated industry. There are certain things that we cannot do because we're governed by legislation or by industry license conditions about what we can or can't do with our assets. But everything else, we really look to challenge. So if you've got a good idea and it looks like it's going to be very, very difficult to implement in the way that you propose, we're really keen to work with you to find out, well, how can we get this in the station? What is the actual issue? What's the boundary? What's the barrier? And what can we do to try and come up with a pragmatic and a practical solution to get your innovation in the station and showcased to the industry? And that's what this is all about from a Network Rail perspective. We own the station, we own the assets, we own the systems. We want to make it as accessible and to facilitate you demonstrate that you've got a good idea that should be taken up elsewhere within the rail network. So as Anna and others have already laid out, there is a bit of a process, and it might sound fairly kind of arduous at times, but I'd really encourage you to see it as it is access into Network Rail, it is access into our partners, so Great Western Railways, who run the majority of train services through Bristol Temple Meads. It's a forum to kind of have a direct conversation and direct dialogue with us to work out how best to refine your proposal to one that really answers a challenge that we have in the industry today. And then where there are going to be barriers and there are going to be difficulties, then you're talking to the experts, and someone like Andy, you're talking to someone who really, really gets how the station runs, what the constraints are going to be, either from a regulatory point of view or from a practical kind of projects running at the same time point of view, where we have very clear boundaries of what we can or can't do. Can you just flip over to the other slide, just to make sure I'm not forgetting anything majorly important? So we've already, Anna's already gone through the challenges, and I think they're really good challenges this year. Anyone who's seen this competition over the years that we've been running it, you'll see a change in the kind of focus that we're going for. So this year we've got a really, really targeted one on obviously like weather-related issues within the station, and then a wider one, which is wider for a reason. You know, we want to see what your ideas and what you can bring to the table in terms of helping us address problems around passenger anxiety at interchange points. It is a live station, so please don't think that we will be, closing the station for you to run your trials. Your trials will be taking place whilst we are still getting passengers to where they want to be and making sure that they can do that in a safe and consistent manner as to what they would expect. And similarly, that we've got staff and we've got teams that are working there either trying to provide for passengers or trying to build those improvements that I was talking about earlier, trying to help us deliver our enhancements within the station environment. So we will help onboard you, we will give you all of the guidance that you need, and we will be very clear where we think that there is a barrier that we can overcome together, or there's a barrier that we won't be able to, it's a very firm line that we won't be able to go much further on. So as an example to that, We can't give you any access to our CCTV systems or any of our security procedures, because it's a nationally significant asset in terms of the Counter-Terrorism Act. We'll get into it if you need it, but there are certain things that we can't facilitate. But everything else we'll go as far as we can to help. I'm wary of overrunning, so I think I'll hold it there. If anyone's got any questions or there's an aspect of Network Rail's involvement in this that I haven't really covered, feel free to ping it in the questions and I'll get back to you either directly or via email.
Perfect. Thank you, Brian. So hi, everyone. I'm George. I'm a service designer here at the Connected Places Catapult, and I help and support with the testbed activities here at the Station Innovation Zone. Next slide, please. So what is a testbed? As already described by my colleagues, the testbed that we'll be using is Bristol Temple Meads Station, and the testbed allows us to introduce your solution to a real-world context. It helps remove some of those barriers to testing, providing you access to the user groups who will better inform and provide feedback on your service model, your solution, so that you can make sure that your solution is getting closer to improving the experience for passengers at the station, for making the station safer, more seamless, more social. And we'll do that by providing a lot of the support that's already been mentioned in terms of the expertise that sits within CPC, but also within Network Rail. Next slide, please. So I think some things that are really important for your application and when you're thinking about creating your application is the mindset to sort of take into this program. We want to make sure that what you're providing is ambitious. We want to make sure that the ideas and solutions that you are suggesting are novel. They haven't been tested in other stations around the UK before. So we want to see something that is new and exciting. So that was really important to sort of emphasize in your applications. And then the other thing, and I think it's been iterated already by Anna, is making sure that you are open-minded. I think we find a lot of time with innovators that can be very attached to their ideas and can bring a lot of bias and protection to the ideas. So the sense of getting feedback and trying to learn from a real world context can be quite hard when you want to defend your solution. But I think what's been really successful for the innovators that have been on the Station Innovation Program before is the willingness to learn and the willingness to hear that feedback and change their service model and adapt their solution so that it can better reach the passengers and make sure that it is benefiting them. And then in terms of the flexibility, as Brian already mentioned, we're going to be working in a live station environment. The priority is to make sure that passengers are able to make their journeys safely. So that takes priority, but we want to make sure that you as innovators can be flexible with your plans and make sure that you are adapting to the different circumstances that will eventually come up or during the time on the trial. I think we realize there's a lot of unknown unknowns that we need to anticipate. So being flexible is really key and important when coming into the Station Innovation Zone program. Next slide, please. And then in terms of some of the support, so we'll be supporting and providing expertise in phase 1, so helping you to design a trial plan that is feasible that is novel and interesting, and we'll be providing that expertise from the Network Rail side, from Andy, who has a lot of station experience and understanding of what can and can't work in the station, and as well as others within Network Rail who maybe have more specific expertise relevant to your solution. We'll be providing support in terms of the data aspects to make sure that you're collecting data ethically. Also be providing support in terms of how to best get feedback when you are looking to gather feedback from the end users and people who'll be utilizing your solution. And then also looking at how best to evidence that solution, that data that you have collected, to make sure that, we're able to then share that evidence with more relevant stakeholders who might be interested in how your solution is performing within the station. And that's all from my side as well. I'll pass back to Anna. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, George and Brian and Anna and everyone who's contributed to the webinar. So there is the Apply Now obligatory QR code now flashing on your screens. And obviously we will be distributing the links to this as well as part of our post-webinar follow-up email. If I could have the next slide, please. We now enter the Q&A, but I think the majority of us have been in the background doing a few answers live to some of the questions that have come through. So what I'll do is I'll just quickly run through some of the general themes. So someone asked about the limitations of change, what, can't screw into walls or certain materials not allowed. And Anna gave a great answer there to say that we're not able to provide the exclusive list live on this call because we don't want to overpromise, underpromise. So it's definitely worth getting in touch with us directly about your materials or detailing in your trial proposal. As Brian said, we will go above and beyond to do what we can to bring your innovation to life. But, if you want to remove something significant from the station, like a pillar, that's obviously not going to be possible. So, but things like screwing things into walls, we've got a couple of trials that have done similar things, but again, it will be subject to what is possible at the station. So we'll tell you that in phase 1. And then in terms, a couple of questions about the finance. So on the application portal, there's an opportunity for you to write how much you're seeking for phase 1, how much you're seeking for phase 2. I think a good point to reiterate is you're not going to be penalized if you ask for the full amount. The full amount is available for a reason because we feel it's the right amount needed for you to be able to develop your solution. So do ask for 4,000 for phase 1, do ask for 45,000 for phase 2, and then detail exactly how you would use those costs in phase 2. And then, as I say, for phase 1, we would expect the majority of costs to be covered on labour and on travel costs. So there's no need to provide us with much detail or any detail of that in the application itself. We would guide you through it if you were successful for phase 1, and we could discuss it in interviews and things. And so those are the majority of the questions that came through. Accessibility was indeed last year's theme, just looking at one of the other questions. We are still interested in trials that focus on accessibility needs. We do have a question in the application that asks how your solution is as inclusive as possible in its design. So as Anna says, we've not run a challenge on it specifically this year, but that does not mean that we no longer aim to reduce the stress for passengers with accessibility needs. So we would want the solution to improve the experience of all passengers. So yes, we are interested in this as a short term. Technological readiness levels that I mentioned, 5 to 7 for this competition. So they're the ones that are eligible for you to apply. I've popped in a link and an overview of some of the definitions of the various technological readiness levels there, just for a little bit of helpful context, and I will distribute that in the post-webinar email. And we will also be providing a recording and a transcript as well. So helpfully, as I've ran through the questions we've already answered, more have come in. So Philip asks, would you be able to make introductions to Whoosh and/or GoodMaps if we would want to augment their apps with additional functionality that they currently do not have? Anna, I think this would probably be a good question for you.
Yes, for Whoosh for sure, and GoodMaps depending on the ask.
Yeah, so we can certainly facilitate a conversation for sure. No worries, Philip, that's great. Okay, so we're coming up to the end now. So if you have got any further questions, please do send them directly to innovation_funding@cp.catapult.org.uk. I'm not going to expect everybody to remember that, so I will hopefully put that in the chat now. And then, as I say, everything will be included in the follow-up email that we send after the webinar. It may be tomorrow, it may be early next week. We'll see how quickly we get round to it. We just want to make sure we round up all of the information as effectively as possible. So thank you so much for joining, everyone. Thanks to our speakers, and we're really excited to see some of the innovations that you submit for this year. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.